So I've been 3D printing for over a decade. In school, we worked with 3D printing, and a friend of mine had recently bought and assembled a Prusa kit with his dad. He recommended I get a Prusa because there was no better way to understand a tool than by building it yourself. I brushed off his recommendation as I was more concerned with playing with my printed creations. I lacked software and hardware knowledge, so this plunge was really scary for me. So, I ended up buying the XYZ Printing DaVinci 2.0 Duo. The 2.0 Duo promised perfect out-of-the-box performance and unmatched quality. The printer boasted first-of-its-class multicolor printing capabilities, something no printer consumer model could do at the time. The printer itself could ensure quality by reading a chip in all filament so that it could automatically import parameters for printing. XYZ Printing itself had its own slicer, XYZware, which handled the complicated task of slicing. XYZ also had their own special repository of files, which hosted special contests and giveaways for exclusive models to their platform. This sounded really good at the time, and somewhat sounds good now, especially to someone who has no experience with something as complicated as 3D printing. But this printer sucks. It would regularly peel while printing, the hot end cables were improperly designed and would rub on the top of the frame, fraying and breaking. The aforementioned multicolor system was one whole unit, so if one hot end went down or clogged, both would need to be replaced. The printer's firmware was locked down, and any custom firmware additions or reflashing would brick the printer. Ask me how I know that. The chipped filament meant that you could only use their filament, or trick the system to use your own. These tricks could also brick your printer if done wrong. Again, ask me how I know. Filament usage was calculated so ends of rolls could not be used once the system deemed that they were fully used, even if there remained stuff still on the roll. Looking back, $20 to $25 per kilo is what other companies charged, while XYZ filament averaged about $30 per half a kilo. XYZware quickly became outdated and paled in comparison to the options offered by Prusa Slicer or even Cura. This printer sucked. So why do you want to be him so bad? This video has been a difficult one to script. I've been slowly working on it since late 2024. The broad strokes of my feelings really haven't changed, but the way I say it has. A lot has happened with Bambu Labs, especially regarding public opinion, but I want to be very clear with my perspective before I get too deep into things. I don't want this to seem like an attack towards anyone who purchased a printer from Bambu. I too was in that position not once, but now twice, as I've described. Despite being a longtime skeptic, but I feel like the negatives outweigh the positive of being able to print multicolor. I still bought the Bambu A1, desperately hoping to be proven wrong. I will say, however, that I was completely right about this printer. Almost every decision in hardware, software, and PR on Bambu's end reminds me of what companies tried before and failed. Some of what I have to say you have no doubt heard before. Despite this, a lot of what I found with the A1 I have not heard said, and I felt it was important and needed to be heard. So, with that very long intro out of the way, let's discuss the Bambu A1. It is very clear by this point that I'm not a huge fan of this printer, so let's start with the positives. I have purchased many printers in my career, but feel the A1 has one of the best unboxing experiences of all of the printers that I have bought. For the most part, things just make sense, but the process is heavily documented with guides and videos on the Bambu Wiki. I am also a sucker for trinkets and goodies that come with my tools. I really like the fact that all the printers come with a Bambu kit. In fact, when I purchased my printer from Micro Center, they were doing a special where I got 2 extra kits along with my printer, and I love these. I really love the ideas of getting a kit and 3D printing parts for it. It is, in my opinion, the best case study for why 3D printing is such a powerful tool for the modern age, and getting it with the printer is so cool. Similar to the kit, I really like the inclusion of a filament swatch kit. It makes it so easy to visualize what all the colors will look like when printing if you wanted to purchase Bambu's filament. These are little gestures, and as you'll see in the rest of the video, I like to focus on some of the smaller aspects of the overall experience. Speaking of smaller aspects, I really like the noises that the printer makes. Normally printers make a generic beep from a cheap hobby buzzer, but the A1 makes sounds that sound more like a modern appliance. Because of this, me and my family have deemed my A1 Mario, since it sounds like a video game when booting up. Transitioning through points, let's discuss things I'm mixed on. The quintessential example of mixed opinion in regards to the A1 is the Bambu Handy app. I've tried a lot of printer companion apps in my time, and the Bambu Handy app is both the best and the worst example, in my opinion. It is super easy to browse for and save files to print on MakerWorld. I think this aspect of the app is much easier than on, say, Thangs' app, and the less said about Thingiverse's decrepit app, the better. It's also very simple to go through printing history and reprint files, even managing the AMS Lite with different colors. I'm not really a huge fan of having to upload everything about my printer to the Bambu cloud. However, I'm not really an expert in data security, so this is not a topic that really affects my opinion strongly compared to other aspects. Another mixed bag is the printer's design. The A1 is a bit sterile. The white plastic will actually turn gray and kind of foggy after use, and the overall look is kind of drab. This does offer up the opportunity for printed upgrades to make the printer your own. I've had a lot of fun printing a bunch of upgrades for my A1 to the point where I'm even making a full video discussing them, so stay tuned for that. Now, let's move into the stuff that I really disliked. If I were to boil down all of my complaints of the A1, they all relate to the level of control, or lack thereof, you have of the printing and processing of 3D models. While I praised many aspects of the Bambu Handy app, I saved complaints about monitoring for now. The camera on the A1 is garbage, and I can hardly ever get the feed to come through on the Handy app or even on my computer. My sources have told me that this is most likely due to the underpowered CPU on the printer's main board. However, I can't confirm this detail, and I'm not knowledgeable enough in the actual infrastructure of the printer to say this for certain. But through my experience, I have evidence that it's true. You cannot monitor the A1 remotely while sending a print, and upload times seem to be a bit slower than my other printers on the same Wi-Fi in the same positions of the house. In addition to physical issues, Bambu Labs has made it impossible to take traditional time lapses on the A1. Let me explain. For all my other printers, classic mode time lapses take a picture at every seam change regardless of position. This is not an option in both Orca or Bambu Slicer. The only options for the A1 are traditional and smooth. Smooth turns on a prime tower and primes the nozzle after moving the tool head every layer to get a clean time lapse with minimal print defects. I like this option on its face, but it wastes a lot of filament on a tower, and considering the fact that I make videos, I would need to turn on a tower for every single print. Traditional moves the print head, but does not make a tower. Thus, the stringing on the model is not mitigated, and instead your print is left to be ruined by the movement. According to Bambu, the classic option I use on my Ender 3 Pro, Ender 3 V2, and CR10 is simply not possible on a bed slinger. Somehow. As someone who relies on these time lapses for footage for my videos, I really wish I could have the freedom to capture this video even if it's, quote, jankier and lower quality than what they're recommending. My second issue is with the AMS Lite. I dislike how no matter what brand you pick, there is a very small library of colors that you can actually choose on the actual screen of the A1. This shouldn't matter too much as the printer will print any color regardless of what's shown on the screen, but it's a hassle to try and remember what color you actually have on the AMS when you go to your slicer and eventually color the model and then print it. In Bambu Studio, there's an option to change the color of each filament, and it has a traditional scroll wheel like you would see in something like Photoshop. Why is this option not available on the printer itself? Additionally, I dislike how no matter what you choose in the slicer or on the screen, when the AMS is selected, it will purge material at the beginning of the print. This means that even if you have the exact same color loaded in the exact same slot for multiple prints, the beginning will always purge. It would be nice if I had the option to tell the printer to keep a particular color loaded for the next print, or it could save what color is loaded and purge only when there is a color swap between prints. Speaking more about filament options, I really dislike how Bambu Studio limits control of what filament you're using. Bambu Studio does not have an option to calibrate and save filament flow. There is an option in Orca Slicer, but this slicer is slowly being discouraged by Bambu Labs. I won't go too much into detail about all of the mess with Bambu Labs and Orca Slicer. The option for flow calibration is available at the beginning of each print and does a very good job in adjusting for each filament. My issue is that this option does not save between prints, and to my knowledge does not get calibrated for multiple colors if the AMS is used for multicolor printing. For example, if purple PLA and gold silk PLA are used, only the first color that is printed will be calibrated. I wish I had the option to save this calibration for the future or use my own without the use of external software not supported by Bambu. Additionally, all AMSs have been unable to print with TPU since launch. This was solved last November with the introduction of TPU for AMS. This is a proprietary filament made in-house by Bambu Labs specifically for usage on their machines. My main issue isn't just that the AMS can't work with TPU, but that their solution is proprietary. The only way that you could print with another company's material is if they somehow learned Bambu's blend and made their own similar one. My final and biggest complaint with the A1 is that it lacks Z-offset control. The Bambu A1, and to my knowledge all Bambu machines, lack the ability for manual control of the nozzle offset. To make sure I cover my basis, this was also a day one feature of the Creality K1. However, after significant backlash, the K1 introduced a new firmware update that allowed users to manually control the nozzle Z-offset. I think this is really important because nozzle offset has been a significant pain in my side for my entire printing career. I really like the idea of auto Z offset calibration since it's been such a big issue, but the A1 doesn't really do a good job of doing it itself. On both A1s I tested, the nozzle will slowly scrape the bed while calibrating, possibly damaging the nozzle and definitely damaging the PEI bed. To be fair, nothing prints in the area where the bed is damaged, but I just can't imagine this is good for the printer or the bed. Also, there's no way to tell the printer to compensate for material, and so printing anything other than PLA can result in warping and peeling, even with a brim or mouse ears. PETG, for instance, is preferably printed further away from the bed as the plastic needs less of a squish to stick. When I printed in PETG, my prints were way too close to the bed and often scraped off with large sections tearing. You can see that in these parts shown here. In some of the worst cases, the print would peel off and result in layer shifting. I really wish I had an option to just change my Z offset manually. The only options that I've seen throughout my scouring of the internet is to put something underneath the nozzle as it's priming to trick it into thinking it's on the bed. But this just really seems dodgy, and I think it would break the printer and not fix my issue. As a little bit of an aside, the mentioned layer shifting is a pervasive issue that I've been fighting with ever since I bought the machine. As neither myself nor Bambu support have been able to find the root cause, I cannot comment fully on either the quality of the printer or Bambu support on this specific topic. As it relates to nozzle offset, I currently believe that the issue is due to bed adherence, although I have never seen bed adherence present this way in any other printer that I have worked with. I don't want to go too rant mode towards the end of this video, but I really feel it's important to justify my disappointment on a more general scale. Look back at the launch of the A1 series. This was marketed as multicolor for all. Many speculated that this meant that they were developing an AMS for any printer, similar to what the box turtle has become now. Instead, this was a brand new series of bed slinger printers that could use the AMS Lite. The A1 Mini launched in September of 2023, the A1 following in January of 2024. Both printers released with two AMS ports built into the frame, but as of the making of this video, Bambu Labs has still not implemented a software or hardware solution for more than one AMS unit on any A1 series printer. 2 years ago, if you wanted to print in multicolor, there was the Bambu AMS or the Prusa MMU. The MMU was/is a little bit more of a tinkerer solution in all fairness, while the AMS is much more convenient. Fast forward to today, Creality has their CFS, Anycubic has their ACE, no relation, and there are many other options. Both systems that I brought up have been praised for their advantages over the AMS and the AMS Lite. Creality High, the A1's competitor, released being able to use the CFS hub and print with 4 CFSs, that being 16 colors all at once. Currently, the High combo is cheaper than the A1 and, let me be frank, more capable. Rumors and leaks are now showing up about Bambu's newest line of printers, so will the A1 and the A1 Mini ever be able to use their second AMS Lite slot? I'm not really sure. How long will it take for the A1 series to be able to use the slot that's already built into the printer? So where does that leave me in the A1? Well, first off, I would say I really can't recommend the Bambu A1 to newcomers, and especially not to old-timers. The promise of a printer that just works is not what I experienced. I do agree that the out-of-box performance is significantly better than printers of old, but I think that this idea is slightly skewed by the fact that the landscape of 3D printing has significantly changed since this printer came out. Creality has released a dozen stupidly named printers that match or outpace the A1 in reliability and in price. Elegoo just released their Centuri Carbon, which is cheaper than the base A1, but a Core XY machine. For a bit more money, the SV08 is more customizable than the A1 combo and is completely open source, allowing for incredible serviceability. When the A1 works, it works well. Multicolor is very fun to play with when you ignore the amount of waste produced. Oh, speaking of waste, I didn't touch much on it since I bought this printer with waste recycling in mind. This printer wastes a ton of material, but similar machines waste the same if not more, so I'm not using that as a mark against the A1. I recently built the ArtMe Mark III on stream, so keep on the lookout for more word about plastic recycling. For the A1, I teased a specific use case in my last video, and continuing on in this trend, let me tease my next A1 video. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one, and bye-bye!